Okay, you guys. So pumped to be here with you tonight. First coaching call of 2026. That's enough for me to be excited. You guys know it doesn't take much for me to be excited. So, really pumped that you're here. Was really impressed with two things. Um, the New Year's form that I sent out a few weeks ago. Um, and I know some of you guys that are newer in here, I sent it out to you too. There was a lot of really correlative things between so many of you, and I thought that was really cool. And then even just like our week or our check-in form that we sent out this week was good. Just overall, really positive stuff in there. Like on the New Year's form, what I really loved was the the pieces behind how everybody was like, I'm really glad I didn't quit this last year. I heard that from so many of you. They're like, it's something, it didn't go perfect the whole year. But you're like, I'm so glad that I didn't give up on myself. I heard that from like at least six of you. And I thought that was really special because that's a loop. And we've been talking about those loops and breaking out of those cycles and how we actually have the choice to break out of cycles and do those things and not quitting, even though things don't go perfect, even though things aren't as the expectation that we set in our head. That's amazing. That's part of the journey. That's part of personal development. And so every day, every time you're making those choices that you didn't quit, even when it wasn't perfect, is a win. And every time we're jumping on these calls, I'm like, what was a win this week? What was a win this week? And that's because I want us to get so conditioned to view ourselves with this winning mindset and flipping the script on how we think instead of always going negative of oh, I fell short of my macros, or I only got in two workouts this week is yes, we have to have an expectation. That is true. But we also have to have a realism behind it as well that implies some grace that pairs with an expectation in order to get to the result. Like we talked about on our previous coaching call on how we actually get all the way to the goal from the present moment. Okay. And we'll talk more about that going in. I really want to dive in tonight on a lot of the questions that came in because it's going to take up most of the night. So also off of these questions, if you guys have things pop up that you have, in the I think down below there's a little thing where you can raise your hand. If not, just barge in and we'll answer live questions as well as we go. The other thing that popped up on the New Year's form was that I wanted to address too was on the part where I was like the commitment side of things. I found it super interesting. Guess where we landed as like overall as a group? What was the most common answer for how committed we are from like scale of 1 to 10? Anybody got any ideas? You would think it'd be like, oh, I'm 10 of 10, or I'm like, or I'm 3, like whatever. Oh, like there were so many, almost like the whole group landed at 9 out of 10. And I just found that super fascinating to be like 9 out of 10. And I can have my own assumptions on why that is, but I do want to speak on that for just a second on that because I think that's important to address going into how every one of you has expressed this desire to accomplish something for yourself in your health and other areas of your life for this year. And so if you're attacking this year with I'm a 9 of 10 committed, think about what that's setting a standard for in your mentality. You're almost all, and this might not be the intention, but this is just what I see. You're almost setting yourself up for at least a 10% chance that I'm gonna fail. And that you're already like prophesying that over yourself because I'm a 9 of 10 committed. And I just find that interesting because even if you're a 10 of 10 committed, it's okay to say that, but let's define what that really means. Being a 10 of 10 committed does not mean you have to be perfect for the next 365 days. It's not going to happen. None of us are going to be there. But what it does mean is that I'm working at staying in alignment with the things I'm working at accomplishing this year. And even though I have days that I fall short on, doesn't mean that I'm still not attacking, still doesn't mean I'm not moving forward, still doesn't mean I'm not making adjustments and learning every single day and defining that live beyond average piece that each one of us is working at defining for ourselves. And so I want to encourage everybody to think about that a little bit here this week on what is my commitment level and what does that mean to me? What does it mean to me if I'm only a 9 of 10 committed? Because a lot of times we think about what do I want to achieve this year? But with that comes one other piece, which is, oh, what if I don't achieve what I dreamed to commit to this year? What if I don't make that happen? There's some serious pieces to that, and there's not so serious pieces to that, depending on where everybody's at with what goal they're trying to achieve. If you're trying to grow a business and you're like, I have to hit this revenue goal or I go out of business, then it probably means something to you. We're like, man, what if I don't hit this? You know what I mean? There's a very big repercussion to that. And so take that very, serious in that sense. And that's why we're always working on this mindset. That's why we're always working at all of it. So let's dive into some of these questions. Some of them are really simple, some of them are more in depth, and we'll just ebb and flow. If you have a question, jump off mute, raise your hand, whatever, we'll keep it rocking. So let's get into it. This one's really good. So this is basic and I like it. Is it more important for weight on a scale to move or inches on the waist? And the answer is I'm always loving seeing inches lost. Scale does not dictate everything. Now, there will be times, depending, most of you have the goal of weight loss and you're fat loss, and you're not everybody. The scale has to move down at some point. But there is times where you are putting on muscle and you are losing fat at the same time. Scale does not show that. Why we take our pictures, that's why we take our measurements. We love inches lost on the waist. We love inches lost on the chest. We love inches lost on the hips. Those things show us that we are losing body fat and our body composition is improving. Another good one here. What are signs that I'm pushing too hard versus not pushing hard enough? And this is really good too, because signs that you're pushing too hard, this is one of those reality checks where sometimes we think we're working harder than we are, or we are working too hard. Consistent injuries over time is like, okay, maybe I have form work, maybe I'm pushing too hard, maybe I'm not fueling my body the way I need to with foods that are causing less inflammation in my body. Everybody has different responses that way. Um, or we're doing too much of certain exercises. I'll use Jackie's been with me forever. I'll use Jackie's example. We've had some like trap issues, neck issues in the past. So we've really had to learn of like some things, how to navigate what exercises work well, and giving her freedom of like, hey, not feeling good with a reverse fly today. Like I'm Xing that out. I'm going to go to some external band rotations. We're going to throw some extra legs in there, working at certain foods, eliminating to see how that's helping with the inflammation. And so there is those signs that you should be aware of. It's not as super common because nobody's trained to be like a 5-star athlete right now. So it's not super common, but it happens, especially when you have high stress jobs, own businesses. It's all of life continuing to stack on each other. So we do want to be aware, okay? Not training hard enough would be you're going to know. Look at your calendar of training logs, look at your macros log, look at those things. You can just be real with yourself. I probably rarely will have to ever tell you that. You can look at it and be like, I'm not training hard enough. So that's pretty obvious for most people. Um, I'm gonna say I have one question here that I really want to say for the end. Um, okay, knowing this is good too. Knowing I have possibly and others have too gained a few pounds over the holidays, what would you want us to focus on first? This is the biggest thing right here. Getting back to plan, not starving yourself, not eating less for a couple days. And this is the same thing. If you have an evening where you eat more than what was planned, or you go out to eat and eat more than what was planned, have a bad lunch, you end up binge eating out of the cupboard one night, whatever that looks like, don't then skip breakfast the next morning to be like, okay, I'm going to make up calories because I overate last night. Because that just starts the cycle again. And then you get starving in the evening and you end up binge eating again. And it's this bad relationship with food. So just go back to plan and hit your next meal. the next day. Start with breakfast. Nail it. Just get back to plan. That's always the best thing versus compensating back and forth because then the body's not getting back into flow. Okay? That makes sense? Okay. Supplement question quick. There's actually a couple of these. I've been using a Kirkland Whey chocolate protein. Seems like that there's others out there that you recommend. Just seems like the price is really good. Um, is I know you said there's a list that others would appreciate. Okay, so there's that one, and then somebody else asked, what would you buy for brand of supplements? So this is totally up to you. Everybody has their own favorite supplement brands. I have been using the Muscle Sport isolate protein. That seems to be working well for me. It seems to be very high process, so it takes most of the dairy out of it, out of that isolate. I know some people in here also have had really good luck with Transparent Labs isolate. So it really depends on what you want to use. I always suggest isolate's going to be your or more higher quality. They are making now like straight beef proteins now as well. I have not tried them, so I can't even speak to that. Um, Brendan's wearing his bucked up shirt right now, which is funny. I've been using the bucked up pre-workout actually lately because I got their 50% off sale Black Friday. So I've been using the pre-workout, seems to be pretty solid. But yeah, as far as brand goes, if you're looking at one, I want you and you're questioning it or have questions on the label, I want you to drop me a message in the DMs in the app. And you can always ask me and I can look at a label and I can give you my review on it if you want that. Okay. So just so you're aware of that. I love this question too. Let me pause really quick. We're like halfway through. Does anybody have any live questions I can help them with that popped up over these first like 5 questions? Good so far. Okay. Um, what are the best action steps to take for morning routine, getting a morning routine going? I love this. So the best action steps are pausing for a minute right now or tonight, reviewing the goal that you have at hand and aligning your tomorrow or aligning today with that goal. So if your goal is I need to lose 50 pounds. Okay, so what's the morning routine look like for you? If you start work at 8 and you have no time to work out in the evenings, you get home with family, kids, all that stuff, we need to get up in the morning. I know it sucks. But even if you struggle getting up 5 days a week, don't think you have to get up every morning. Pick out 3 and go, I'm going to go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then I'm going to hit the weekend workouts. So if you struggle with getting up all 5 days, don't. Sleep in Tuesday, Thursday till 6:30, get up at 5 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and hit your pre-workout meal, hit your workout, and crush the day and build that momentum. Show yourself that you can do it. So the best way to build the morning routine is do it tomorrow. Get up, set the alarm, do not hit snooze, and you just prove to yourself that you do it. Hit the workout. I would start the morning routine like this. This is one of my favorite ways to start morning routine. I get up, I go brush my teeth, I go upstairs and I mix me up a drink of electrolytes. And if I'm doing my work, then I go hit my workout. And when I come back in, I take that moment before I come back in from the gym and I have 5 minutes of pause time where I'm just like reflecting. Some would call it meditation, some, whatever you call it. Some, if you want to pray there. I also like to sit up when my alarm goes off some mornings I'm exhausted. I'll just sit up in bed for a couple minutes, take a couple deep breaths and pray for a second. Like just those little pieces where you're just like, it sometimes feels like we're always running, right? In life, we're always like on the go. It's crazy how when you take 2 seconds and we've talked about breath work and breathing in here too, where you just take a couple big breaths and slow down, get present in the moment, put your feet on the ground and pause. So if you need help developing an absolute, like, a 5 minute morning routine or a 30-minute morning routine, reach out to me as well. And I can help look at your day and we can establish that for you specifically. But what I like to do, if I'm just telling you in general, is make that morning routine aligned with your goal. Because you'll hear influencers on Instagram being like, you have to do this morning routine and do an ice bath and do this. And they take like 90 minutes to do this morning routine. And none of it has to do with your own personal goal. Like the same influencers talking about making like 20K a month. And none of that morning routine has anything to do with growing your business. And so just make sure some of that morning routine has to align with you. Okay. That's the biggest piece. I hope that answered that question. Feel free to reach out with me if you want help with that personally. This is a good one too. What's one way to remain motivated to work out on days that you don't feel like working out? This is so good because that's the reality is that we are not always motivated. None of us are. And I know a lot of you in here struggle with it at times during the year too, or certain weeks. We all do. So I want you to know you're not alone if you're feeling that way because there's multiple people in here that do, and I do too some days. And that's part of why I do year programs with you guys. I do very few 6 monthers, and I always push for people to do a year because it takes time for us. This is that piece of embodiment. This is that piece of how we start to embody who we really are and the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis that just become part of our life. And so there's another question here that goes with that too, that I was throwing at the same time, and it was, why is it easy to lose focus sometimes, though you're dead set on staying focused? It's that same piece. It's embodiment. We do the things that we view as valuable to us. We view the things that align with who we are and who we're becoming and the goals we want to achieve. And so we have to continue every day without the motivation. I did a reel on this the other day. I was sitting here at the computer and I was editing a YouTube video because I committed myself in 2026 to step up my YouTube game in a different way. And I did not want to be sitting here editing this video. If any, the people who know me, I edited my own TV show for 8 years. I've been editing content since 2012. I am so over it, you guys. I'm so over talking to Instagram. Like, I don't think anybody hates it more than me because, but it's how I have met all of you. And so there's commitments that align with the goals I have that I have to stay true to. And with that, then I have to recognize the days where I'm like, oh yeah, like actually being on a story or making a reel doesn't align with the goal of my family life. I need to be off of that. And so I have to make that adjustment on the fly and realize that and be real with myself as well. And that goes for you too. There's going to be a day where you're like, nope, I have to get to this wrestling match and I have to miss tonight's workout. That's okay. Do not beat yourself up over this. That is the beauty of the ebb and flow of life. None of us are gonna not make our goal because we miss an incline walk on a night once in a while. You know what I mean? But you'll learn that it just becomes so natural in our everyday life that you won't even think about the morning routine anymore because it's so easy, automatically built into your calendar of your mind, not necessarily the calendar in your Google Docs, but just the calendar of your mind that it's just what I do. I get up, I'm hitting the gym because I don't like the way I feel when I'm not. And now it's not so much about burning calories. It's not so much about putting on muscle. It's not so much about the next vacation. It's me. I do this because it makes me feel good. It makes me be the dad I want to be. It makes me be the husband that I desire to be. And that's where those deeper whys come into play and why I'm always talking about that too, why I'm talking about identity so much. And we're going to start doing a review on that we got into last June on identity and how important this is. I think it's going to be a perfect time to review that here in the coming weeks. Okay, we're almost done. Macro-friendly afternoon snacks. I find myself blowing off a few hundred calories here, especially on heavy lift days. And then also another question that goes with it, protein snacks when you're avoiding dairy. Okay, so snacks, macro-friendly snacks, always tough one. And this is where it gets tough. We can do a couple different things. If you're struggling with snacking in the afternoon or time-wise, we can increase the size of our lunch and our supper and move those macros to a little bit bigger lunches and supper. And you don't have to worry about a snack and you can just smash a protein shake there. But if you're not doing dairy, you're like, I'm not probably going to be doing a protein shake there. And so this is lame, but it's kind of, there's not a lot of things. So a protein bar you can rock, but you're going to have to check to see if it has dairy in it. Obviously, you always have the beef jerky, all the hunters in the room, you guys got your venison jerky, you got those things. A lot of you I've built into your plans too, like the tearaway pack, tuna packets or chicken packets, those flavored ones. Those are the goat. Like those are so easy. Like I always have a dozen of those in my bag that I carry around. That I go to the gym and I go to you guys see me working at Starbucks all the time. Like I always have a half dozen to a dozen of those different flavors in my bag with a fork. And then I end up having 16 forks in my bag. And my wife's like, where are all the forks at? Uh, but those are just like easy. And it's like, I don't necessarily love them, but it's like, it's just a quick snack. It's just to hit my goal. And I really focus on loving ourselves. Like we cook good suppers. You guys see me post on Instagram, like our meals. I don't always love my snacks. I don't always love my breakfasts. But like those other meals, like that's where I'm spending a little bit more time cooking or I'm making something fresh or I'm spending that energy. Part of my food, we're foodies. My wife she went to culinary school. She just set chef. So we love to cook. And so I am a fat kid at heart. I could eat and eat and eat. So I've had to learn how to view food at times as fuel and then also learn to mesh that into absolutely love and cook food for flavor and the plating and visual. And so mix that up. Mix that all up, okay? So yeah, those snacks are going to be simple for you. You're going to have to go to those jerkies. You're going to have to go to bars. You're going to have to go to those tuna chicken packets. And those type of things. If anybody else has any good things in there too, drop them in the chat. Sorry, I always forget the chat's over on the right here. I had to pull that up. Okay, last question of the night. We're gonna finish with this one. Okay, can you talk a little bit about how the journey of the process works again? A review on vision and then working through to make that a reality. It's a really good question, and this is actually kind of preluded on we're going to start diving back into this again. We're going to start diving back into identity again a little bit and the importance of this because if we aren't rooted in who we are individually, how you are, it's hard not to play this role of like always seeing somebody else's success or doing something because somebody else is doing it or just like the comparison game. Um, and not necessarily from like social media, but sometimes just the way we were raised, what we were brought up in, like those pieces, like what our parents did, how they reacted to things. Like there's a million and one things that affect our reality today because of our past. And sometimes we have to address those and recognize them, but also not get hung up and marry our past in order for us to move forward into our future. And so we to work through that journey of the process we do have to see the vision and create that vision that you have for yourself. And what would you want us to focus? Okay, hold on, I got to reread that. A review on vision and then working through to make that a reality. Okay, so I want to redo a little bit about last coaching call too, where I was talking about those present moments because it's tough. I've had to review it myself multiple times to make it super clear in my mind. Like a lot of these teachings are there's so much. And so some of you who weren't in on that last one, we talked about this piece of how we do have to start embodying the goal that you have a year from now and where you see yourself. You have to embody it and live it in such a way right today that it just happens in a year. Okay, so how does that make sense? It makes sense of look at what that person is doing a year from now. So I always use the example of like, I use two things. I'm like, if you want to lose 100 pounds, what is that 100-pound you doing a year from now? Like, answer that question, literally write it down. If it's hiking, a 14K in Colorado, okay, what does that mean for me today? Go for a walk. If you want to make $1 million, what is the $1 million you doing in a year from now? Do those things today, right? So part of that might be, hey, I work from a coffee shop once a week. Like that's one of my things that I dream about doing. I want to have the freedom to work from a coffee shop. So I make sure from once a week, I go and work and I do a bunch of work from a coffee shop because I have that freedom to do it. So instead of waiting until I make a certain amount of money to do it, I just go do it. Instead of waiting to go hike a 14K, you go find a local trail and go for a hike. That is part of embodying and doing in the present moment of now instead of always being like, I'm going to do this someday. You might want to own a Ferrari, but what's the vehicle that is the between vehicle that gets you to a Ferrari? Or what's the action steps that you save money, invest money, make money to get you to the Ferrari? It's all of those pieces. And so it's so easy to get stuck in I don't have and I'll never have because it seems so far away. And sometimes so in a minivan that I got to drive today. Thank you for that, Paul. And so we get so stuck in our goals being far away. And I understand that because I live that so much. I've been a huge dreamer since I was a child. It's like God's gift to me that I get to dream about big goals. And it was like my curse all at the same time. And I'm sure some of you feel the same way with some of those things that you want to accomplish. It's like, why is this so important to me? And it's so damn hard to get there. It's because you've been gifted something beautiful to actually go after in life. I mean, if you didn't have that, then man, that's empty. And so, what a beautiful thing that we get to stop and be present with and get very, very present in the vision, embody the thing that we want, the thing that we desire, and who we actually are, and then be grateful about it and take action. The action always brings clarity. Do something. Always do something because that action will bring a clarity to you that you didn't have prior to the doing. All of you have not wanted to go to the gym, and then you go to the gym and all of a sudden you're motivated, you feel good, you get the sweat on, you get the endorphins, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. Like so many people always talk about that with church too. Like, man, I didn't want to go to church today. And then they leave church and they're like, oh man, I'm so glad I went to church today. Like you hear those type of things all the time from people where it's just like, yeah, because the action brought you clarity. You did something versus sit on your hands. Sitting on your hands rarely will ever bring you a result that anybody in this room is desiring. And so that's the piece. That is the piece. We're going to get into this here deeper in the coming weeks. I'm really glad we had this like Q&A question to really start the new year off. There's some really good stuff in there. And I want to focus on this more in 2026 too, where we're just diving into some get a Pinto. Dude, remember those Pintos? I think a lot of people died in Pintos. So let's dive deep in 2026. Let's be crushing it. Let's have this be a year that's different than it's really ever been. It's really easy to be a cliche and say those type of things, but at being a leader in the group, and every one of you is leaders, otherwise you wouldn't be in here. Like you're leaders of your family, you're leaders of your coworkers, you're all those things. Like everybody on earth is a leader. It's just if you want to recognize it or not. And so there's something special about this year, and I'm really excited to be with you guys in this year to see where we go and the things that we accomplish. So any other questions before we close this baby out? We are right on schedule, 7:29. Let's go. If not, I will hit stop and we'll let you guys rock. If there's any questions that you guys have, feel free to drop them in the chat. We can keep the conversation going. You can put them in the group channel in the app, or you can drop them to me privately. I'm always here to help. So appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being part of my family, my client, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Have a great
Thanks,
night.
Jordan.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Later.
Yeah, have fun.
Bye.